Training to failure. Some people say it's absolutely necessary, some masochists take it to the next level, while some people never train to failure and they grow anyway. In this video I will do my best to explain to you why, when, how often, and whether you should even train to failure on your training sessions to build the most muscle. But first, why should you even listen to me? My name is Karol. I have 6 years of experience in strength training and building muscle. I've tested countless different training programs and methodologies, and in the end, I've built my 10 out of 10 physique while enjoying every single workout. If you want to build a top 1% physique while having fun on every single training session you do, it's the top link in the description. Let me begin that if your goal is strength and you don't care about training at all, then training until failure shouldn't really be the part of your training program. Basically, strength athletes really want to do a lot of sets, a lot of volume with heavy weight. That is why they must often stay away from failure in order to be able to repeat that set many times. Basically, strength in a neurological meaning is a skill, and in order to improve that skill you just have to repeat it as often as possible with heavy weights. So this is how it looks for pure strength athletes. But if you obviously want to get strong, but if your main goal is just building a sick physique, then training to failure should be the big part of your training program. But there is a small catch. Let me explain to you how to exactly do that. Basically, when it comes to training to failure, it is very, very beneficial for growing muscle. But when it comes to training to absolute failure, when your technique and the rep breakdowns, you basically fail a rep. That is not beneficial since you're really overloading your central nervous system by doing that. Obviously your muscles like that, your muscles will grow on that, but you will quickly just get burnt out and you won't be able to continue your training sessions because you just overloaded your CNS. So how we can make sure we reach the muscular failure as often as possible, but at the same time we fail reps as rarely as possible. Basically, one metric that I found to track that is very helpful for that is doing your sets until the last rep you do significantly slows down. So let's say you're doing like a barbell bicep curl, you're doing like maybe 12 reps with 30 kg, that is exactly what I did today. Obviously on the like 9th, 10th and 11th rep, your bar speed will be slower, but it will not be like significantly slower than at the beginning. So let's say at the beginning, the time it takes to get the bar up is like 1 second. Then at the 9th and 10th and 11th rep, it's like 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds, maybe 2.5 seconds. And then at the 12th rep, it's like 5 seconds, it's like 6 seconds. It's significantly higher, it's significantly longer than all of the last reps. And this is exactly when you want to stop. Because if your speed of the rep slowed down that much, there is just no way you're gonna do another rep with a good technique. And this is also important. If you're doing, basically you can do compound movements and you can do isolation movements. When you do compound movements, you really want to keep your technique relatively proper. So let's say you're doing chin-ups and your 8th chin-up slows significantly. So it took like 5 seconds to get your chin over the bar. And that's when you want to stop. Let's be honest, if you really committed yourself and you really like hyped yourself up and the drop would come on the earphones, then you may have done like 9th or even 10th rep, but they would be really bad technically. Because in order to complete them you would keep with your legs or you would sacrifice some technique. And you don't really want to do that with compound movements because it might be taxing for your body and for your central. It might be taxing for your body and you might be risking an injury actually. But when it comes to isolation movements, like the barbell bicep curl that we talked about, you can do, let's say, 12 good reps with a really good technique, and then you can do like 5 more reps while using a bad technique, like swinging the weight up. And this will actually let you push past the failure. This is what we call training beyond failure, because you're using bad technique in order to compromise for the lack of strength. And this is actually good for the muscle because intensity is the most important factor for growing muscle. And with isolation movements, there is not that much risk of injury or things like that. And with pure isolation exercises, you're really not even risking the central nervous system overload, since you're only activating like a few muscles at the same time. So again, with compound movements, you want to push until your last rep significantly slows down with relatively good technique. And with isolations, you want to also do the same thing, push until your last rep significantly slows down. And if you want, you can sometimes push past failure, which means you can do a few more reps while compromising the form. And the reason why I said sometimes is because you don't necessarily need to push past failure. Your muscles will certainly grow if you just push to failure. But honestly, pushing past failure is just really fun, and it lets you really feel the muscle you're exercising, and it just gives you insane pump. So it's also a big benefit. Your central nervous system doesn't really get affected that much from isolation exercises, but it still can get affected if you push past failure all the time, or you're basically failing a rep all the time. It will get affected by that. So train smart. Just to quickly recap, compound movements until your rep significantly slows down with relatively good form, and isolation movements until your last rep significantly slows down with relatively good form, and you can sometimes push past failure. So pretty much the same exact things, but with isolations, you can sometimes just push past failure and really break the muscle completely. Is there anything more in my script? And I almost forgot to tell you about something very important. Basically, I said, with compound movements, I said to push until your rep significantly slows down with relatively good form. But with compound movements, there is something called stimulus to fatigue ratio. And this basically means how much your central nervous system has to work compared to how much your muscles break down in the process. So if we take a deadlift, for example, you use pretty much all the muscles in your body, so your central nervous system really has to work a lot to activate all of these muscles to a big, high degree. And when it comes to the muscle breakdown, it's high, but when you compare that to the amount of strain it takes for your central nervous system to activate all of these muscles, it's honestly not even comparable. So, deadlift, it's an amazing exercise, but it's not the best for growth. It's just better for working your CNS. So what's the alternative? Basically, RDL, Romanian deadlift. With this exercise, you're using a lower weight and you don't have to activate so many muscles. With Romanian deadlift, in order to break down the muscle tissue in your body to the same degree as with deadlift, you need to use significantly lower weight. And that is why your central nervous system will not need to activate all of these muscles to such a high degree in order to get the same effect of muscle breakdown. And that is why RDL is a lot better exercise when it comes to stimulus to fatigue ratio. Because with the same CNS fatigue as with deadlift, you will get a lot more muscle tissue breakdown with RDL. So if you really want to maximize your muscle growth and you really want to build a sick physique, you really shouldn't do much of those main big three, those popular lifts like barbell squat, like deadlift. Even bench press has some better alternatives. So instead of deadlift, you could do RDL. Instead of squat, you could do like a box squat or safety bar squat. I'm pretty sure that both of these exercises are better for the CNS. And instead of bench press, you could, for example, do dumbbell presses because you get more stretch and you use less weight. So that is better, certainly better for hypertrophy. But if you feel like with that kind of training you lack something, you're completely right. Basically, while substituting all of these major big exercises for their muscle building variations, you lose a lot of fun from training, I'm not gonna lie. Actually, what got me to the gym was a dream of someday doing a 300 kg deadlift. So actually, sacrificing training these movements just to get some more hypertrophy is not really that beneficial, at least for myself. So when it comes to my training and how I train, basically 80% of my workouts are the exercises optimized for hypertrophy, for building muscle. And the remaining 20% are exercises like deadlift, the regular barbell squats, and things like that, because I don't want to sacrifice them, and by leaving them in my training program, I completely understand and accept the fact that they will fatigue my central nervous system, and in consequence I'm gonna build slightly less muscles than if I just did the muscle building variations for those exercises. So this is just my choice. Depending on your priorities, you can do whatever you want, obviously, but in my opinion, it's just a lot of fun training these main big movements. So again, do what you want. I gave you all of the information so you can decide for yourself. You can also do some more research to find more variations that could be also as fun for you as the big lifts. And it's pretty much it for this video. I hope you learned a lot from it. And if you want to build a top 1% physique while having fun on every single training session you do, it's the top link in the description. And that's all for today. Peace out.